Most of the, it's very active, almost every aspect of the life. But I think I can categorize the activities of movement in 3 categories. And these categories are actually related to a statement or a teaching of Gulen. In Turkey first, but later on in general, in the world, he defined as human beings, we have 3 problems currently. 1, ignorance or lack of education. 2nd, disunity or conflict. 3rd, poverty. So whatever this movement is doing, you can put that activity in one of these categories. Education, conflict resolution, or intercultural, interfaith dialogue, and also poverty. I told you about the school in Izmir in 1983, and these are private schools, funded by mainly local Turkish businessmen at the beginning, but they charge tuition. Depending on the location of the school, depending on the local society, 25 to 30% of students are receiving full scholarships. Right now, there are over 1,000 schools in over 100 countries. Schools in Bosnia, in Philippines, in Afghanistan, in Pakistan, in Africa, in Europe, in America, all over the world, over 100 countries. And they are one of the best schools in their locality. I've been to these schools, some of them, and even the diplomats of other countries are sending their kids to these schools because they are the best schools. Especially in Africa, or especially in those countries, you don't have a good education system. They apply an international curriculum, but also follow the state or the local curriculum as well. There are schools in Bosnia where you have, it's not only education, but also coexistence. There are schools in Bosnia where you have Serbs, Croatians, and Bosnians attending to the same school. Since the war, right after the war. You have schools in northern Iraq or in Iraq, 17 such schools in Iraq, and also as university, where you have Shia, Sunni, and Kurds attending to the same school. In Philippines, you may know there is a tension between Christians and Muslims, but there is a school in Philippines where you have Christian and Muslim students are attending to the same school. Thomas Michel, a Catholic scholar who was the director of Interfaith Dialogue for Vatican for some time, also a social scientist, went to this Philippine school and studied that school. And while you have a tension outside, the parents of these students are fighting in a way, but they had a comfortable, coexistent, peaceful environment in school. That's why he called these schools as peace islands. In a way, there is a turmoil happening, but it's an island, but safe, they can stay. Not only private schools, but also tutoring centers. This is a term that we use in Turkey. As Mr. Aydin said, my studies are actually, focusing on conflict resolution, and especially I'm looking at the Kurdish conflict in Turkey. That's, my main study. And those who went to Turkey would know, eastern part of Turkey and western part of Turkey are not the same. There is, a difference in terms of economy, prosperity, culture, and the Kurds are mainly living in the eastern part of Turkey. And so there is a huge conflict going on over 30 years. Over 40,000 people died in this conflict. There are schools, plus these private schools, but there are schools and tutoring centers for those who cannot afford. These are free. And actually you have to be, or your parents have to be below a certain level of income in order for you to be accepted. I was there in 2011, and they had 250 such centers, having over 1,000 students. just in Turkey. The second major category is aid or poverty reduction. This is an organization in Turkey. It's called Kimse Yok Mu. This category is not big as the education activity. It's probably new, if you compare the education activities of the movement, but it's getting big and bigger. It's called Kimse Yok Mu. It means, is there anybody in Turkish? We had an earthquake in 1999 in Turkey. 35,000 people died in that earthquake. And this was an actual cry of a person who was actually underneath of a building, asking, is there anybody to help me? So it became the name of this organization. And in a very short time, this organization became the largest, the biggest aid organization in Turkey. They do collect, donations from Turkey overall. Probably most of their donations are coming from Turkey, but also from other places. But they distribute to other places as well. In Africa, other places, they have a program very similar to Doctors Without Borders. They have doctors from Turkey go and visit, other places, do health screening, operations, simple operations. They repair schools, clinics, build hospitals. And they do not discriminate. It's not only for Turks. I'll give you an example. This is actually a quite interesting story. In 2006 or 7, Peru had an earthquake. And this foundation has a policy. If there is a natural disaster in any part of the world, they start a campaign, whatever they collect, and take it to that place. It could be in South Asia, in Africa, or in South America, or anywhere. And when Peru had the earthquake, they started a campaign and collected some money. And they took it to Peru. And they built 300 houses in Peru. But it became national news because they were the only international organization or outside organization that was coming to help Peru. So they called the president, and at the time, we didn't have any form of relationship with Peru as Turkey. If you ask people in Turkey, they wouldn't know where Peru is, and vice versa. And they invited the president of the foundation to the parliament of Peru, and he actually gave a speech at the parliament. And the president of Peru, or probably president of the parliament, went to Turkey, not to visit the Turkish government or the president, but just to visit this organization. But while he was there, he visited the Turkish president, and they decided to have embassies in both countries. So right now we have embassy in Peru, and Peru has an embassy in Turkey. And also domestic programs. They also have, I did actually research on this organization some time ago, looking at their funding. But I came up with a very interesting project that they have. When they don't, collect donations, they usually take the donors to the location that their money is going. It's actually, it seems like, very simple thing, but what happens, usually when they take the donors to that location, they donate more. First, they know their donation is going there, but when they go, they see what's happening there with their eyes, and they donate more. Another program that they had was family matches, and this is happening domestically in Turkey. You have a, family that's struggling with financially. Sometimes the father doesn't have a job, or sometimes there's no father to work, and there are kids. So what they do, they find a volunteer family, a wealthy family, they match them together. So it's a match, no donation, but that family takes care of that other family's needs. And it's continued, not one time. Maybe after the kids graduate from university, or I don't know the time period. So that's also very good to me, I think, program. And this is the last category, and this is probably the most you see in America, interfaith activities or intercultural dialogue activities of the movement. As I said, in 1990s, started in Turkey. Gulen started interfaith dialogue, and then it became interfaith, intercultural dialogue. The people in the movement established, foundations throughout the world. Very active in America. These are organizations, active organizations, or umbrella organizations in America. They do, and most probably some of you have attended, dialogue dinners. People come together just to know each other. They do, dialogue trips, conferences, panels to educate each other. The main idea here is, we don't know each other, and that's why we are afraid of each other. Once we know each other, there is no need to fear from each other. And that's actually just to increase that knowledge of each other. That's the whole idea. And also, accept each other as we are. We don't need to be the same. We don't have to believe in the same thing. What we need to respect each other. My brother and I do not believe in the same things. We don't have the same life, but we are brothers. If he needs me, I'm there for him. If I need him, he's there for me. So we don't have to be exact. It's impossible. It doesn't happen. Within the communities as well, in the same communities, we are different. But we need to learn, live together, and hopefully work together. This is probably a next step. In Texas, our interfaith activities, of the movement activities, started early 2001, and a huge relationship has happened. And I hear from all sides. They say we have talked too much. Let's do something together. Let's say there is a good project. You can be a Christian, a Jew, or a Muslim, or a Hindu, and you will find a motivation in your faith to do that. But at the end, we do something together for the community. And I think it will happen soon. This is also a project in Texas. It's called Texas Interfaith Peace Garden, funded by the movement. It's under construction now. And you can guess the size. I think that's why they put the cars there, so you can know it's a good size of buildings. A synagogue, a mosque, a church, a mosque, and a synagogue at the same garden. They will be not functional in a way like operating mosque or church or synagogue, but people will come there, students will come there like a museum. They will visit all these places. Maybe they are planning to have special, ceremonies. Maybe if there's an interfaith marriage, they can have there. So this is a project going on in Texas. They do, and some of you have attended trips to Turkey as well. The structure of the movement, how they are structured. Gulen's teachings are in the center. His understanding of Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet, his interpretation is in the center. When I say Gulen, Gulen is not unique, by the way. He's a very traditional Muslim. This might be, a surprise to some of you, because when you hear about Islam, you only hear about terror, radicals. But those are marginals. They are not the norms. And this teaching is in the center, and you have local, circles. It might be a city, different city, or it might be different countries. Gulen inspired, project-oriented, locally organized, and usually locally funded. Why usually? Sometimes the local community may not have the resource. Just like, let's say in Africa they're opening a school, so they don't have resource in Africa. So a Turkish businessman or some Turkish businessman go there and fund the school initially. When the school is able to sustain by itself, it's funded by locally. Are they funders only Turks? Mostly Turks, only Muslims, mostly Muslims. But there are examples of other people. Here recently, a Jewish businessman from Turkey died recently. He founded a school in Moscow by himself. By himself, he founded the school in Moscow by Uzeygali.